going.
I like having a really man at my side. It feels good. So I'd like to introduce our wonderful minister, Cheryl Lewis, and Carly, and Reverend Sean Imler, who are doing our work this morning. And Carly, are you still a UCM student?
Yes.
Yes. So it's like we've got 3 different degrees here. That's why I think it's really wonderful. A student and a minister and a reverend. See, and there we are, honoring you for whatever you're doing. Okay, and they're going to be talking and singing about one voice.
So we'd like to invite you to listen to the lyrics of this song and see where they resonate with you, where they land inside you. Then we're going to talk about the way that one voice resonates with us, what it means to us. And after the talk, we're going to play it again. We're going to sing it again and see if where it lands in you resonates differently, where if anything has changed.
Victim number 1. Because we said yes to naughty.
Yes. Thank you.
No.
Can't say no.
You can try.
I did. Cheryl said I can't. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening to our lovely song.
Lovely
Love
song.
you, Carly. Love you.
So, the theme for this particular beautiful day is one voice. But I think before we try to figure out what one voice means, behind it is, what is voice? What does it mean to us? So I prepared something for you from my own little brain. It's a little bit of spoken word, and I'm going to allow it to speak for me, and then I'll speak a little bit more. Voice. What voice? Who said that? Who is speaking? Who is observing me while I am thinking? Where does the sound come from, and how can I tell if it's from a dream that I am waking from or a life I sleep away? Is it one voice, two, or maybe three? What does it mean if it's a harmony? Does it make sense? Does it control me? Do I have a say, or is it beyond me? Where does the word come from, and is it freely given? If I express it, is it mine, and am I really living? Is it I? Is it my song? Is it from those who came before me? Is it a melody, a phrase, a single sound, a change of key? Or is there some deeper meaning, a greater whole, the source of all expression? A space of knowing that allows the providence of all creation? What I'm really getting at, my lovely expressive friends, is that each and every answer really just depends on if you have the courage to ask yourself these questions, and if you take the time to listen to who answers. Because that one voice deep inside of you is made of many voices, of experiences, people, places, and choices. It's a book of adventures where every chapter is the leading story, a linguistic mosaic, a real-life allegory. It's the music of your life in full symphonic glory, where every instrument is rich, alive, and transitory. If you can tell by the musical poem I'm reading to you, I really have thought this through. Because before the word comes the thought, and that, my dears, is a caveat. So if you want to use your voice, remember it has power, not just prose. Since you are responsible for what you say, the intention you speak with has plenty of sway. The many voices, whether inside or outside, can affect change and have an effect worldwide. What you choose to express in every which way comes around to bite you in the, well, you know what I mean. It can be foul play. So, take a stand. Make a choice. Find a way to speak your voice. There are so many out there who need your voice too, because one voice alone can't always break through. As a human being and a spiritual light, you have the privilege, the responsibility, and the right to say what you mean and mean what you say. To know that you chose to be part of a play where you are the lead and the others the mainstay. So, my fellow voices, precious children of earth, who, as you know, has a loud voice, what I want to leave you with is one last question. And I hope you take it into consideration. Who are you when you are being in your voice? And who is it that is making that choice? Okay, I lied. There are 2 questions. Just wanted to see if you were paying attention. With love in my heart and my singing voice, I hereby sign out with an adios. So let me just say that as opposed to singing, speaking in public is very scary for me. So that's why I wanted to say no to Dottie. But I think some people say, well, how can you be afraid of speaking in front of people if you sing in front of people? And I can sing in front of thousands and, it would be amazing. And I think that's because of what voice really means to me, the way I define it. Because like I asked you that question, who are you and are you being in your voice? To me, voice is who are you in your beingness? When you are aligned to who you are, how do you express that? And to me, the easiest way to do it is through music. Because I feel the vibrations, because they lift me up, because it's who I truly am when I'm singing. And, singing is like life, because I love metaphors, but, every note, every phrase, every sound builds upon each other. You can sing as one individual person, and you can be yourself fully and love what you're singing. But as you notice, the more the voices build up, the more beautiful it becomes, the more harmonious it is, and the more we create something different and beautiful. So this is part of why this is the way that I feel most comfortable being expressive is through my voice. And there are many ways to express ourselves. I looked at the definition of voice in the dictionary, and there's a lot of different definitions, but I think more than just the word, it's, because there's different ways you can define what the voice means. I think it's really about how you choose to live your life and how you choose to express yourself. And I think one of the important things that I also talked about, because there's a lot of material in this thing, and I had to read it like 5 times once I wrote it to really get it, to really let it get inside of me. But one of the important things is also not just what you say, but also where it comes from. Because like I said, we are built of many voices inside of us. So we come into a world that's already defined for us. It's already made up in different ways. It's culture, it's interrelated, it's your parents, it's your family. So there's so many things that we come into. And so sometimes it's hard to distinguish what is it that's mine, what comes from me inside, and what comes from this culture, this thing I was born into. And that's why having your own voice and finding what it is that lights you up, what you're aligned with, is important. Because that will allow you to distinguish that voice from everything else. And I mentioned that before the voice, before the word, there's the thought. And before the thought, source. So whatever is coming, wherever that unmanifested is. So even before you get all the way to expressing yourself, you already are starting with a complex, wholesome thing, which is source, where everything is coming from. Then it comes to you. It streamlines to you in the form of thought, and then you speak it. So even then, you're building upon a lot of things. Even then, there's this huge structure that creates the pathway to the word, to your voice. So remember that too, because it starts way before you're saying what you're saying. So saying what you mean means starting with source. It means starting at the beginning. It means allowing it to become thought. It means picking it up and making it yours in a way that's aligned with who you are. So it's really important to consider how you're using your words, I think. We are living in an interrelated world. Our interrelated world, and our words have power. You know that energetically, physically, spiritually, they have power. So I want to really stress out that when you use your voice, it's so important to be responsible for it. It's so important to direct your words with kindness. It's so important to remember that the other person also has a whole process behind them before they speak. And sometimes it goes bad. Sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we say not what we mean and not mean what we say. But we can fix it. And not fix it as in, correct it and then it's done. No. what we do is we look back, we see where it started, where in that chain did it start to fall apart, and we go back to it and we see how that can be set different. So that's really important. And you do that through who you are, through your beingness. That's why I wanted to define voice before just talking about one voice. Because you have your voice, and it's one voice, but it's part of a bigger voice outside. And Cheryl's going to talk a little bit more about the voices outside of us and the things that influence us. But I wanted to start from the beginning for you. So there are a lot of things expressed in this poem, but I think that at the heart of it, really, at the heart of having a voice and expressing it, is that the choices we make about who we choose to be, what we choose to express, how we choose to create our world, and make it into a place we love, and how we choose others to do it. So use your voice wisely. Be kind.
Good morning.
Good
morning, Cheryl.
I too am nervous when I talk, but I'll do the best I can.
Yes, you will.
You're alone.
Thank you.
Visualize us all naked.
I don't know if I can see
Does that really help?
Please help for me.
So, want to share? Okay.
No, she said she was visualizing it for you.
And I turned around and I said, "Are you visualizing?" Yes.
So, I'm, for those who don't know, Minister Cheryl Lewis. And to me, the voice is a very powerful thing. It causes change. It interrupts stasis, causes movement. It communicates, it informs, teaches, builds bridges, and tears them down. It frightens, relieves, defends. The voice can be used for standing up for yourself, and so much more. Each day is filled with so many voices, as Carly mentioned. I have noticed there seems to be one prevailing voice in my world that speaks the loudest. It's the voice that has my attention the most. Have you ever stopped to think, what is the loudest voice in your world? While you think about that, I will share some stories about the loudest voice in my world and how it tends to shift and change. I am an empty nester. My kids are grown and gone. Moved out of the house. I'm also divorced. So when the kids left, there was literally nobody home but me. The loudest voice for me at that time was, my kids are gone. I'm no longer needed. If I'm not a mother, who am I? I don't have anyone to take care of, nothing to do. The loudest voice took over everything in my world. I couldn't get away from it. It colored everything, and the color was sadness. While this was the loudest voice for me, I was unable to get past it to see I wasn't taking care of myself. Then, in November last year, 45 was elected.
Oh, yeah.
I was literally shocked and went into fear for myself and my nation. This became my loudest voice. I started watching the news, CNN and Fox broadcast. I used Twitter for the first time. I was acting like a survivalist. I had to get information to prepare for my doom. It was an unusual response to something, and I didn't expect it, but it was loud, and it was prevailing. To this day, I check the news on my phone before I even get out of bed. As soon as I wake up, I check the breaking news. I also check the breaking news periodically throughout the day at work, and lucky for me, they have CNN playing on the TV in the break room. I can't get away from it. So these are habits that I picked up in response to my loudest voice. That's the point I want to make on this one, is that the loudest voice can influence your behavior. It can influence what you do and set aside peace and calm and set you up in a reactive way of living, which might be contrary to how you'd rather live. Then, another thing happened. Last December, my kitty passed away.
Oh.
It affected me much stronger than I expected it to. The way I experienced it was that every time I came home and she wasn't there to greet me, I was overcome with grief. That wasn't so much of a surprise as the length of time I carried on with this. When it stretched into 3 months, I started to get concerned for myself. This then became my loudest voice. It was wintertime and I became a recluse. I did nothing but work, go home, and go to sleep. It might be what you experience with grief anyway, but the cycle was extended for me and I started to be a little concerned. So help for this loss came when Joyce Brown gave a talk here. She gave a talk about mind chatter, and then she had a workshop afterward, which I attended. She shared her experience with talking to her mind to find out what was going on. I decided I was going to give it a try. So I marched home, marched in my house, sat on my couch, and faced this nagging grief head on. I said, okay, mind, I'm talking to you now, and I want answers.
Ooh. I want her now.
What's going on here? Why is this, why is my sadness lingering over the loss of my kitty? What's going on? And then I sat and I was quiet. Didn't say anything else. I shut up and listened. The next thing I know, within a minute, my mind said, you think you're a bad pet owner.
Ooh.
And it struck. It was spot on. I had no idea I felt that. I had no idea I was carrying that. But that's exactly where the grief was, where it was stuck, where it was lingering for me. I really did feel like I was a bad pet owner. And so to my mind, I said, yes, I do feel like I'm a bad pet owner. And then I started listing off all the reasons why. And then my mind answered back. It said, all those reasons are true, but you're home every night. You feed her every night. You're allergic, you can't pet her, but she knows you love her. You sit down and watch TV and she is right there next to you, purring as loud as she can. She's getting love from you in this way. It may not be ideal, it may not be what you think a pet owner should be doing, but she knows she's loved. She has a peaceful, quiet home she can sleep in all day. When you get home, there you are, and she loves you to pieces. So, how about that? And you know what? It helped, because all of that was true, and instantly diffused the sadness, the grip that grief had on me. It instantly changed in that moment. So I would like to invite you to use that tool if you feel like you're gripped by something that you can't control, or that you're saying enough is enough, where is this coming from? Sit down in a quiet environment and ask your mind the question. Form the question. That's the hard, not the hard part, but it's the tricky part. And once you form that question that really says what you're feeling, really says what you're experiencing, then you just listen. And the answer will come. It's really a powerful tool. So after this, my pain was gone. But I continued to look for ways to heal because I didn't want to stay stuck in the sadness any longer. I wanted to continue to heal from that. So after a variety of healing sessions, a space was made there where I was able to think and really perceive my world as it was today, to see how I was living and to potentially make a different choice. Now, I'd like to read the lyrics to our song, for the first verse of our song, which I feel is so inspiring as a way for us to be in this world with ourselves and others. This is the sound of one voice, one spirit, one voice, the sound of one who makes a choice. Because we can make a choice. We just have to think and stop to do it. This is the sound of voices too, the sound of me singing with you, helping each other to make it through. We have community, we have friends, we have ministers that we can talk to. This is the sound of voices three, singing together in harmony, surrendering to the mystery. This is the sound of all of us, singing with love and the will to trust. Leave the rest behind, it will turn to dust. This is the sound of one voice, one people, one voice, a song for every one of us. This is the sound of one voice. Now that you have an idea of what I mean by the loudest voice, would anyone like to share their loudest voice? And if it's disturbing, would you care to share if you can perceive another way to make a change? Just that, you can share if it's disturbing, if you can perceive a way to do it differently, just share, yes, I can perceive a way of doing it differently. You don't have to share the details if you don't want to. But would anyone like to share their loudest voice and how it's, if it's disturbing and you can perceive a change?
Well, I have this nagging, you're no good, that one, that everything you do is, and that's not true. I mean, I have people around me all the time that say otherwise. There's nobody around me that says anything like that except the voices.
Your own voice.
Yeah, and the people around me are so wonderful at thanking me and saying that I do nice things and that sort of thing, and so and it's just hard to shut that guy up.
Yeah.
So
It
it's because it's interesting because I've done the the spirit releasement, that there have been things like that in the past, but this one is just even my parents, theirs was you'd be so pretty if you lost weight, that kind of thing. It's like, well, that's not going to happen. So
Right.
I'll just have to be the way I am anyway.
Right.
And
Thank you.
but they're still like those old tapes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
That's
matter
it.
how much therapy you go through or how many processes you work through.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird how it creeps in there.
It's like a circuit. You're fine one minute, and then the next minute, who knows why it pops in. But that
Yeah,
voice
stop at
pops
the
in.
red light, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm so bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I don't know whether that's just being human or what.
Yeah.
That's trapped emotion.
Yeah, probably.
I'll share my
More work.
experience. A couple of years ago, I got messages from many, many different directions, inside and without, that I need to be in Maui. I mean, even my astrologer, every psychic I talked to, everybody said, you're supposed to be in Maui. In fact, I was supposed to be there like October 1st of last year, according to Elizabeth Barton. But anyway, I kept shooting it down because I had this family programming that said that I don't deserve to be happy and I don't deserve to have good things happen for me, and I felt guilty about actually going for my dream. And so I kept putting it off, and I just found every excuse to not do it. And anyway, finally it just was so overwhelming that it was like I had no choice. And so what I found is when I actually made the decision, which was like June 1st. I said, that's it, I'm done. I put my house on the market with the help of a whole lot of people in this room, and I found that, to my surprise, the world did not punish me. I didn't feel like I'd been a bad girl because I went for my dream, and I had so much support from so many people in this room, you know, all around. I just went, oh my God, I actually do deserve to be happy, and I'm making it happen. So anyway, I just found that sometimes when you get these voices that keep shooting you down, saying what makes you, you know, what makes you think you're so special, you know, all those words, especially the word deserve, you know, you just have to find a way to go past it and make it become a reality.
Right.
Right.
And now we have a really cool place to go visit.
Yes,
New place for a retreat.
So I know my time is running up, but I do have a few things that I would like to offer as tools for talking to this voice in our head that may not be so generous to us. So when I am all of a sudden feeling bad about myself, or I have an experience like an email from work that triggers and I'm going to answer with flames, I stop myself and I center with this tool. I love myself in thought, word, and deed. When I say I love myself in thought, word, and deed, that means I like what I'm doing. That means I like what I'm saying. And I like what I'm thinking. So when that email comes through and I have a flaming response, I don't like what I'm thinking. I don't like what I'm about to say. So I say this over and over. It doesn't take long either. It's I love myself in thought, word, and deed, and all of a sudden I shift. All of a sudden I'm in center, and all of a sudden I can breathe again, and I come up with a much better response. So I have actually found that it's very, very useful. And the more I use it, the more centered I am, and the less I have to use it, which is quite interesting. Another one, I'll leave you with this. It's from the EFT training, emotional freedom technique. It goes like this. Even though, fill in the blank, I deeply, lovingly, and completely love myself.
Right.
So one of the examples for me is that sometimes I get angry. Imagine that. But what's interesting with me is that when I get angry, I feel ashamed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, I feel like
And so I use this. I say, even though I feel angry and I don't like myself when I'm angry, I deeply, lovingly, and completely love myself. And that turns it around for me in the sense of, like Corky, maybe using your example to say, I don't like myself right now. So when you're feeling that, you would say, even though I don't like myself right now, I deeply, lovingly, and completely love myself.
Okay. Thank you.
And you feel a shift. You really do feel a shift. And you can apply anything, any feelings that you're having at the moment. So I have more than I could say, but I run out of time. And so now I welcome Reverend Sean.
Sean. I was ready to just let you keep talking. You're doing a great job. I brought this song to Cheryl and I said, I heard this great song. I think it would be great for us to harmonize on it. And that was about a year ago. The song was actually given to me by my friend Judy. And we were at a retreat workshop and she said, I have this great song, I want to play it for you. And I listened to it and I was like, this is fantastic. And we managed to wrangle about 6 people to come into the room and pour over it to learn these different harmonies. And nobody had a voice high enough to meet the actual recording, the one that Carly was singing so beautifully, we're all really low voices, so I made a completely new arrangement out of it, and then we just spontaneously got up and we sang it for this group of people. There's probably about 50 of us, and people got it. They got it. They got the message of the song, which is that there's a saying that the whole is stronger than its parts, and that unification. It's like even if somebody doesn't sound quite right within the harmony, there's enough people in it to carry it through until that person makes the correction, until they make the adjustment to bring it back into wholeness. And to me, that's one of the wonderful things about harmony in itself. And when you really have it perfectly, it's fantastic. When you have only a few voices, everybody's got a lot to hold on to, because one little error is so noticeable. But when you have a huge choir of 50 or 60 people, one little voice is not going to make a big difference. You're going to hold this cohesive, beautiful harmony together. So it's interesting that when we have a common vision, that we can actually move great things. But the interesting thing that gets in the way of common vision is ego. And I was thinking about the contrast between how you let go of the need for self to be heard and let yourself move with the movement of many people, feeling the common vision. What is it that, how do we even distinguish what is happening within ourselves and those voices that get in the way, that prevent us from feeling whole and doing things that are productive for all of humanity? There's the fact that the brain actually has a little bit of a delay when it's sending signals through the neurons, and different parts of the body receives those signals at different rates. But basically they say that about 0.3 to 0.6 milliseconds it takes from one side of the brain to another, right? So there's going to be a little firing here in this part of the brain, which has an emotional belief system, and it sends a signal to the other side of the brain, and then that triggers a memory of something that happened in your lifetime, and then your response happens. Well, what happens before that, though? What happens before that 0.3 milliseconds? Well, that's spirit speaking through us. I always tell people, when you need to follow your intuition, it's always going to be the first voice, the very, very first one. Sometimes we don't even hear it. Sometimes we're so used to doing our patterns, of following these belief systems that we have, or the belief systems that our parents had and they gave us, and we're like pulling them around in a sack of ways of responding to the world. And we forget that there's a space in there, there's a quietude. And the more that we exercise the ability to listen to that quietude, in fact, the more that we utilize our subtle senses, what I call the subtle sense of sight, that's seeing symbols, seeing vision, or the subtle sense of hearing, that's that little voice that says something, or the subtle sense of feeling that says, my heart's telling me something right now. That space, that 0.3 milliseconds in between 0 and 0.3 is spirit speaking to us. It's that higher mind that we have. And if we continue to put a pause in between our thought and our action, between our thought and our words, then we have spirit speaking directly to us. And then we can let go into that. We can exercise that muscle of knowingness, of beingness that we all strive for so much in our lives. Not reacting, not acting, but just being, and how powerful that is. There's another thing that came to my mind when we decided that we were going to do this little talk about the song. So, as you know, I just got back from Sundance again. I've been singing on a drum now for, I don't know, probably going on 10 years. And one of the really powerful things about singing on the drum is you let go into the drum. You let go into the song. There's always somebody that's calling out the song so that you all are on track with each other. But once the song is called, once the foundation has been set, you let go. We always say one heart, one voice, one prayer. It's incredibly important that we're all in unity with each other, and you don't have an opportunity for self. You only have an opportunity to let go into the movement, the sacred movement, Wakantaka. What they say is the great mystery. The great mystery is moving through all of us all the time, and it is a movement. And so we let go into that movement because the prayer is actually the most important part. The prayer needs to be heard. The prayer needs to be sent out into the universe so that it can actualize. And the most important part is that you are opening as the conduit for that prayer to manifest. I wanted to do a little exercise that kind of popped into my head. So I'm going to count to 3. When I reach the number 3, I want you to just make the spontaneous sound that you have going on inside of your body with your voice. Don't think about it, just let it happen. And everybody has to participate. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now try this, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a tone, and I'm going to give you a syllable. I'm going to say ah, and I'm going to give you the tone of ah, and we're all going to do this together. 1, 2, 3. Do you notice the difference between those two things? So
Yeah.
people acting from self and people acting in harmony with each other, do you recognize the power in that?
Yeah.
There's huge, huge power in that. And so if we can let go of the ego, if we can let go of our consternation, if we can let go of our questioning, if we can let go of our belief systems and just move, just be in that movement. Daku Wakan, this movement that's happening, that spirit moving through us. There's no need to think about it. There's only the presence of it within you and beingness. So I'm going to leave you with that, actually. I've said enough. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so now what we're going to do is we're going to sing the song again and just see what comes up for you and how you can be with the lyrics